Welcome to Two Up Front from the Attention Era Media Studios in beautiful Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And presented by Three Lions Pub, I am Simon Provan. Baxter's not here today, but for a great reason. He is celebrating the birth of his son. I don't want to give too much away and eat up all his thunder on that, so when Baxter's here next, I'll have him fill in all the details as a first-time dad should. Or even a second or third-time dad, really. Share the news of your own child. But very excited to be here today. Wishing Baxter and his wife Liz God's blessings on their new child, who I do know the name, but as I said, I'm going to let him announce it the next time he is in here. So, okay. Enough of the good news, as much as I would love talking about that. Usually, as we start off our show, we do the kick around. But my friends, I cannot do a kick around. I need to jump right into it. I know every soccer show out there has been talking about the Klinsmann dilemma. And I'm going to share with you my view, my frustrations, and I ask that you give me these few minutes to do so. So, first of all, we all know U.S. starts the Hex 0-2. First time ever they start a Hex 0-2. The Hex started first with the 1998 World Cup qualifying, so 97. The U.S. has usually done really well in the Hex. But what is going on? What is going on with Jurgen Klinsmann? I know there's a lot of people out there that are big fans of Klinsmann. I would say I understand, but I actually don't understand. I don't get it. What is it about him? Yes, he took Germany to third place in a World Cup. But that's about it. Was he great as a player? Absolutely. I loved watching him when I was in my youth. Absolutely loved watching him. Watching him play with Germany. I watched him destroy U.S. in the 98 World Cup. I watched him play with Tottenham. That was back in the day when you could get a game on TV once a week, once a month. But even then I was watching him. But as a manager, fully in charge, even as a technical director, I couldn't be more disappointed in this guy. As I said, we, meaning the U.S., starts 0-2 in the Hex. Now, listen, this is worrying because in the history of the Hex, only 3 teams have started with 0 points after 2 games. And only one of those teams ended up making a World Cup. And that was Trinidad and Tobago in 2005, making the 2006 World Cup. That was it. That was 2006. We're sitting in a place that historically teams have not been able to make the World Cup. Now, I've heard a lot of pundits go back and say, well, look, they've got 8 games left. And in the past, they've been able to recover. The difference this time is they've already played 1 game at home where they've been invincible. All right? Let's go down the lists of Jurgen Klinsmann's firsts. Okay, fine. You want to talk about friendlies? Yes. First to win in Italy. First to win in Germany. Those are friendlies. Doesn't matter at that point. Is it cool? Yeah, absolutely. It's cool. But we're not looking for cool now. We're looking, as fans, to see the U.S. in the World Cup. Klinsmann's other firsts. He was first to lose First to lose to Jamaica on home soil. First to lose a World Cup qualifier on home soil in 15 years. And I remember I was in Montana watching Honduras beat the U.S. in Washington, D.C. 3-2 in 2001. First time to lose 4-0 in a World Cup qualifier since 1980. Since a time when the U.S. had no business playing soccer. Since a time where the NASL, the original one, was dying off. That's what we've come back to. He's the first to have the U.S. start the Hex 0-2. I don't care about friendlies. What I'm tired of are the firsts in futility. That is what concerns me. That is what upsets me. So if you are a Jurgen Klinsmann fan, say, no, he's brought this program so much farther. I don't see how you can say that anymore. And you say you want to blame the players, you want to say you want to blame MLS. Okay, let's look at the Costa Rica game. If it's the MLS players bringing down the U.S. national team, then why are the MLS players for Costa Rica burning the non-MLS team players, the U.S. team players, that don't play in MLS? Johan Venegas heads home a goal. Johan, by the way, playing for Montreal in the MLS, heads home a goal from his teammate, Christian Bolaños, who plays for the Vancouver Whitecaps. They beat who on that goal? Omar Gonzalez, who plays in Liga MX, and Jonathan Brooks, who plays in the Bundesliga. Now look, Jonathan Brooks is a good player. Omar Gonzalez is a good player. First of all, I think it's terrible that Jurgen Klinsmann, after that Mexico game, basically did nothing but blame the players. And I do think with the way he called out Jonathan Brooks, it affected Brooks in this game. Going back to this whole idea of it's got to be the MLS players that aren't doing well enough for the U.S. Well, Joel Campbell, after his first goal in that Costa Rica game, he scores a second goal off of a deep cross from Ronald Matarrita. You know who he plays for? New York City FC. So how is it that other CONCACAF nations are benefiting from MLS, but so many U.S. fans blame the MLS, for bringing down the U.S. national team? My friends, it is a false argument. It is a false argument because you look around CONCACAF, so many other teams have benefited from MLS. Last time I checked, Guzan does not play in MLS. Well, he's on the roster with an EPL team, but you can argue he doesn't play in that league either. What about Johnson, Chandler, Pulisic? Now listen, I'm not saying Pulisic's a bad player by any means. He's the brightest hope that we have for this team. But you've got several players. I already mentioned Gonzalez. I already mentioned Brooks. I don't buy into the argument that the MLS is at fault for this. Let's look at Jurgen Klinsmann as a tactician. There's one moment to point towards. Two moments, you could say, to point towards. He works a 3-5-2 in training. You're going against an opponent that for years, and yes, I get it, Bruce Arena used a 3-5-2 in that 2002 World Cup game, but that's because that's all the personnel he had left. There were many injuries that day. But yet he still coached the team to a 2-0 victory at the World Cup over Mexico. Klinsmann uses a 3-5-2 because it worked well in training. Listen, you're not playing the Mexican national team in training. The U.S. has beaten Mexico so many times playing a 4-4-2. I don't care if it's boring soccer at this point. You want to get to a World Cup. Now, I've seen some people online say, I'd rather not play in a World Cup and figure out the system and get away from a 4-4-2. Sorry, I, again, don't buy into that argument either. Counterattacking soccer has served U.S. soccer well for years, and I personally don't think that's nothing to be ashamed of. It's gotten you to World Cups. It's gotten you to a World Cup quarterfinal in 2002. But Klinsmann starts with a 3-5-2 against Mexico, and they completely destroy the U.S. in those first 20 minutes. It takes Jones and Bradley, players, to come over to Klinsmann and say, we've got to switch to a 4-4-2. We're getting killed in this 3-5-2. And if you watch that clip, it looked like they had to argue pretty hard for Klinsmann to change. But it took players to recognize a change needed to happen, not Klinsmann. So this is worrying. Do I think the U.S. is going to make a World Cup, this next World Cup? I got to be honest with you. I don't know, and I'm worried about it, and I have not been this worried in a long time. So, I think it is time to say goodbye to Jurgen Klinsmann. Sunil Gulati, it's time to get rid of him. I don't care if you're trying to save face. I don't care if Sunil, you're sitting there saying, well, this is my guy. Suck it up. Say you made a bad hire. And as far as a technical director, looking under his program at U.S. Soccer, I don't care that it's only been 5 years. 2 teams haven't made the Olympics. Numerous youth teams have not made World Cups. And now the U.S. senior national team is in danger of not making the World Cup for 2018. That is inexcusable. Well, that is my rant for the first 10 minutes of the show. I'd love to hear your comments on Facebook. Check us out there. Check us out on Twitter as well. Go ahead and put a tweet out there. Tell me why I was wrong at 2Upfront Soccer, or send it to my personal account at Simon Provan. Either way, tell you what, we're going to take a break here, and when we come back, we're going to talk to Johnathan Campbell of Chicago Fire. You are listening to 2Upfront, presented by Three Lions Pub. Welcome back to the 2Upfront Studios at the Attention Era Media Studios in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, brought to you by Three Lions Pub. Good show so far. Very excited to have our first guest, as I had previewed in the opening segment. From the Chicago Fire, defender Johnathan Campbell joins us on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. Johnathan, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, pleasure having you. Well, Johnathan, let's get right to it. Obviously not the best of years for your organization as a whole, but personally a decent season for you. Played in 33 games, started 30 of those. Just wondering if you can reflect as a whole on the season, perhaps your personal experience as well, and what you hope to have going forward with the Fire.
Yeah, just overall, didn't really know what to expect going in, but, just wanted to do the best that I could and provide the team, what I could bring. And after the season, or after the preseason, I was able to get a spot and be playing a decent number of games, like you said. And I think that was great for me. Got a lot of development. And, hopefully can learn from those games and be better the next season. And then, I thought throughout the season, there were some ups and downs. I thought at the beginning of the season, we tried to play a good, solid soccer, and we kind of lost our way in the middle of the season. And there was, I'd say that was a little tough patch, but then I think we kind of got back on it, and we're starting to play better later in the season, and obviously it was a little bit difficult once we were out of playoffs, and the season kind of set in, and it's hard to get the best from all the players. So finished up at that point.
Right. A little bit of a bad connection, Johnathan. I don't know if that's on your end or my end, but we'll keep rolling here.
All right, hopefully it gets better.
What's that?
Hopefully it gets better.
Yeah, we'll see here. Of course, you came out of North Carolina. What was the biggest transition from you coming from, a school like North Carolina, of course, and then playing in MLS?
The University of North Carolina, it was a great school for me. Got a lot of development, but obviously from any college level, moving to the professional level, you're going to have to pick up on things. And so I just tried to do as much recovery as possible, so that if I could play in games, just that I was available. So I wouldn't pick up any little injuries, and I thought I did a good job of that throughout the season. But for me, the change is just the higher levels you go, the mistakes just become more and more deadly. And as a center back, you just have to make, as little as possible. I don't think anyone will ever be perfect in a game. But the higher levels you go, when you give the opponent a chance, they're going to put it away. So just trying to decrease those opportunities and decrease mistakes so that, you can help your team win.
Absolutely. Moving forward next year, obviously you've got a great teammate there in the back with Brandon Vincent. Has the manager talked to you guys at all about perhaps building around you, and of course David Ackham as well. Playing the way he does. Has he talked about how to improve the Chicago Fire team?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that he's talked directly to us saying, we're going to build a team around you guys, but I think it's just, kind of said by their actions. I think there's a lot of times where personally they could have moved to another center back, or, Brandon and I could have been taking our lineup more, but they stuck with us, and I think that kind of shows that they want to move forward with us, take up our options, and, they obviously believe in us. They have a lot of faith in us. I would say that's kind of how they've said it. But, yeah, we want to have a core returning that we want to move forward with, and, hopefully from there build in players that can continue adding and hopefully just make the overall soccer better for us.
Yeah, you do have you do have a dedicated fan base down there, but of course, a few fans upset with the continual last place finishes. But it does seem I was down there earlier this year watching you guys take on the Portland Timbers, and my goodness, I got to say, it looks like there are a lot of pieces there for the Fire. But what does it take to get you guys to gel to play consistently well?
Yeah, I mean, as a player, I think about those things pretty often, but at the same time, you don't really want to think about it too much where, it's not my position to be the GM or the head coach. And
sure.
Gosh, I mean, I think it's so hard for them to decide, who's going to fit. You can get, a tremendous player from a different league or from another MLS team, but will he fit into your system? Will he fit with your, teammates? I think it's just, wow, it's crazy. It's got to be tough for them. But I do agree. I think we do have some great pieces on our team, and I don't think I don't want to use it as an excuse. But we had a lot of new people on our team, and the people that will return, I think it'll be a lot easier for us this year, returning guys and being able to play with them. You're accustomed to them, how they want to play, all of that. So I think, that can go a long ways. And I just, hope they add the right pieces and find pieces that gel together that we, can play good soccer going forward.
Listen, you set a lot of rookie records for the Chicago Fire Club. I have to ask you, has there been any communication from U.S. Soccer as far as perhaps getting called up?
No. I mean, I haven't heard anything from them. And obviously, I think I would love to play for them. It's a dream of mine. But, I can be patient with it, and I just have to keep after it every day and do my best. And hopefully the call will come at the right time. But for the records, I think it's great. I was very fortunate to play that much. But I think I keep it pretty realistic in the fact that some of those, I don't know if I would necessarily want to set a lot of the rookie records. Some people came to me and talked to me about stats, and they were saying, "Oh, you led in blocks, interceptions, clearances." And it's if it comes down to it and I have to make a block, well, I'm glad I made that block.
Sure.
But I don't necessarily want to be in this position where I'm having to make blocks, interceptions, and clearances all the time. So across the league, I might have been high in that, but I don't necessarily think it's the best thing,
Right, sure. You'd rather see the team scoring all those goals and making the defenders on the other team set blocking records. And
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, I could instead make one block a game. I mean, that'd be great. If it came down where I only had to make one and I made it, then I did a great job that game. And hopefully we just had the ball the whole time and I didn't have to make anymore. So, I think that with that, I do think I gained a ton of experience. And I think I'll be able to move that forward in the coming years and, use that experience. But I do hope it improves where I don't have to be doing that.
Absolutely. Well, any last thoughts for us, Johnathan, especially as you do think about next year and the Chicago Fire?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be good year for us. I know it's been difficult for the fans, but they've stuck with us, and we appreciate that. It's not easy for any of us, for the athletes or the fans, but I'm really looking forward to next year. Excited about working with the group and just getting after it again.
Absolutely. Well, Johnathan, thank you so much for spending some time with us. We're just an hour and a half north of you right now, being in Milwaukee, and I know Baxter and I are planning to get down to a lot more Fire games. So we wish you the best of luck, and would love to see that stadium, that beautiful stadium of yours, fill up with fans and see you guys get a bunch of wins down there. So wish you the best of luck next season.
Yeah, I would love that. But thanks for the call. I appreciate your time, and looking forward to next season.
Excellent. Well, like I said, good luck with that. And no matter how you feel about it, congratulations on all the rookie records you have. You did for the Fire.
Thank you. I do appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, there he goes. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more soccer, NWSL, MLS, whatever it may be. I'm alone in the booth, so I get to decide. We'll be right back. This is Two Up Front, brought to you by the Three Lions Pub. Welcome back to Two Up Front at the Attention Era Media Studios, presented by Three Lions Pub. This is Simon Provan. That's right, it's One Up Front today. Of course, had a great interview earlier with Johnathan Campbell. And pretty soon here, I'm very excited about this. We're going to have Lynn Williams on the phone as well. Great play with, obviously, the Western New York Flash. 14 goals on the season in the NWSL, Golden Boot winner, regular season MVP, and, of course, the great time that she just spent with the U.S. Women's National Team. So very honored to have her on the show in our next segment. But first, folks, I got to tell you about what's going down at the Three Lions Pub tonight, November 17th. Check this out. It is Harry Potter Beer Night. They are going to have a Harry Potter beer dinner. They have just a few spots left. Listen to this. They are pairing Surly Brewing with 4 delicious courses tonight. Dinner begins at 6 p.m. with a cocktail reception. Then each course is paired with a Surly beer. Everyone that attends the dinner tonight will be placed in a raffle to win to win 2 tickets to tomorrow's showing of the new movie Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. Now listen, I'll admit to you, I am a Harry Potter fan. I've got a daughter who actually got me into it. My wife is a Harry Potter fan. My youngest daughter is a Harry Potter fan. So I would love to be able to go to this event. So if you have time to make it down there, this is going to be a great time for you. It's only $50 a person. And when we're talking about a great raffle and a great event like this, make sure you check it out. Now, if you can't get down to Three Lions Pub tonight, do make sure to get there sometime this weekend. They're highlighted matches where they also have great beer specials there as well. Liverpool taking on Southampton at 9 a.m. and then Tottenham taking on West Ham at 11 a.m. Those are both on Saturday. So make sure you get down to Three Lions Pub or the Red Lion Pub, which is also in Milwaukee. So some great events going down by our presenting sponsor. And boy, it's great to see stuff like that going on. Big news coming out today. There was a planned ISIS attack on Israel's national soccer team, and apparently that has been foiled. So this was going to be targeted apparently with some other thing ISIS was going to do, so both of these have been thwarted. According to a statement, this is from NBC, according to a statement issued Thursday, 18 people were arrested in Kosovo and 6 more across both Albania and Macedonia. Police said explosive devices, weapons, electronic equipment, and a drone were recovered. Police said the groups were coordinated by 2 Albanians who are part of ISIS in Syria. Now, Albania moved a World Cup qualifying match with Israel on Saturday from the northern city of Shakhtar to a venue near the capital, Tirana, due to the fear of possible attacks by militants. So this is a ISIS attack again that has been thwarted, which is obviously great news, but also worrying. You know, we saw what happened with the uprisings in Egypt when Bob Bradley was coaching the national team there A lot of people, unfortunately, were killed over all of that. So thankfully, it's great to see an attack like this being thwarted. So great job to the police over there. Interesting news. Of course, I'm sure by this point you've heard that Frank Lampard is leaving New York City FC and that Steven Gerrard, no surprise, has left the LA Galaxy. But Gerrard apparently in talks already with League One club MK Dons, talking about being their manager. This from ESPN. Gerrard confirmed earlier this week that he was leaving MLS outfit LA Galaxy and was exploring options on and off the pitch. And apparently talks between Gerrard and MK Dons are at a very early stage. Of course, people are wondering, well, when did that stage happen? Did it happen when Gerrard was still suited up with the LA Galaxy, or was MK Dons waiting for him to make the announcement that he wasn't coming back? Either way, very interesting about what is going on there. Other tidbit of news connected to that: Thursday, it was actually rumored that Frank Lampard might take over MK Dons, and he had said, no, I'm not doing that. So we'll see if Gerrard begins his coaching career with MK Dons. I think it'd be a little surprising. You would think that, if anything, Klopp may welcome him back with open arms. As he did say, Gerrard was always welcome at Liverpool. And, in fact, he even went on further to say, you cannot imagine how welcome. Absolutely no problem. Everything what we have already or will talk to each other about stays in this talk and stays in this situation. That's how I know Stevie, and that's how I am. But nobody should be worried about we having no space for Steven Gerrard. So if I'm a betting man, which I'm not, but if I was, I would definitely be putting my money on Steven Gerrard ending up over at Liverpool and not at MK Dons. But that is the exciting world, of course, that we live in, never knowing who's going to end up where and what rumors start where. And, well, we shall see. Either way, as that music says, it is time for another break. So just a very small kick around today. Time to get off the practice field. You are listening to Two Up Front, presented by Three Lions Pub, hanging out here by myself in the Attention Era Media studio. Either way, having a great show. When we come back, excited about this, we're going to have Lynn Williams on the phone. So make sure you stay tuned. See you on the other side. Welcome back to Two Up Front at the Attention Era Media Studios, presented by Three Lions Pub. This is Simon Provan. That's right, it's One Up Front today. Of course, had a great interview earlier with Johnathan Campbell. And pretty soon here, I'm very excited about this. We're going to have Lynn Williams on the phone as well. Great play with, obviously, the Western New York Flash. 14 goals on the season in the NWSL, Golden Boot winner, regular season MVP, and, of course, the great time that she just spent with the U.S. Women's National Team. So very honored to have her on the show in our next segment. But first, folks, I got to tell you about what's going down at the Three Lions Pub tonight, November 17th. Check this out. It is Harry Potter Beer Night. They are going to have a Harry Potter beer dinner. They have just a few spots left. Listen to this. They are pairing Surly Brewing with 4 delicious courses tonight. Dinner begins at 6 p.m. with a cocktail reception. Then each course is paired with a Surly beer. Everyone that attends the dinner tonight will be placed in a raffle to win to win 2 tickets to tomorrow's showing of the new movie Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. Now listen, I'll admit to you, I am a Harry Potter fan. I've got a daughter who actually got me into it. My wife is a Harry Potter fan. My youngest daughter is a Harry Potter fan. So I would love to be able to go to this event. So if you have time to make it down there, this is going to be a great time for you. It's only $50 a person. And when we're talking about a great raffle and a great event like this, make sure you check it out. Now, if you can't get down to Three Lions Pub tonight, do make sure to get there sometime this weekend. They're highlighted matches where they also have great beer specials there as well. Liverpool taking on Southampton at 9 a.m. and then Tottenham taking on West Ham at 11 a.m. Those are both on Saturday. So make sure you get down to Three Lions Pub or the Red Lion Pub, which is also in Milwaukee. So some great events going down by our presenting sponsor. And boy, it's great to see stuff like that going on. Big news coming out today. There was a planned ISIS attack on Israel's national soccer team, and apparently that has been foiled. So this was going to be targeted apparently with some other thing ISIS was going to do, so both of these have been thwarted. According to a statement, this is from NBC, according to a statement issued Thursday, 18 people were arrested in Kosovo and 6 more across both Albania and Macedonia. Police said explosive devices, weapons, electronic equipment, and a drone were recovered. Police said the groups were coordinated by 2 Albanians who are part of ISIS in Syria. Now, Albania moved a World Cup qualifying match with Israel on Saturday from the northern city of Shakhtar to a venue near the capital Tirana due to the fear of possible attacks by militants. So this is a ISIS attack again that has been thwarted, which is obviously great news, but also worrying. You know, we saw what happened with the uprisings in Egypt when Bob Bradley was coaching the national team there. A lot of people, unfortunately, were killed over all of that. So thankfully, it's great to see an attack like this being thwarted. So great job to the police over there. Interesting news. Of course, I'm sure by this point you've heard that Frank Lampard is leaving New York City FC and that Steven Gerrard, no surprise, has left the LA Galaxy. But Gerrard apparently in talks already with League One club MK Dons, talking about being their manager. This from ESPN. Gerrard confirmed earlier this week that he was leaving MLS outfit LA Galaxy and was exploring options on and off the pitch. And apparently talks between Gerrard and MK Dons are at a very early stage. Of course, people are wondering, well, when did that stage happen? Did it happen when Gerrard was still suited up with the LA Galaxy, or was MK Dons waiting for him to make the announcement that he wasn't coming back? Either way, very interesting about what is going on there. Other tidbit of news connected to that: Thursday, it was actually rumored that Frank Lampard might take over MK Dons, and he had said, no, I am not doing that. So we'll see if Gerrard begins his coaching career with MK Dons. I think it'd be a little surprising. You would think that, if anything, Klopp may welcome him back with open arms. As he did say, Gerrard was always welcome at Liverpool. And, in fact, he even went on further to say, you cannot imagine how welcome. Absolutely no problem. Everything what we have already or will talk to each other about stays in this talk and stays in this situation. That's how I know Stevie, and that's how I am. But nobody should be worried about we having no space for Steven Gerrard. So if I'm a betting man, which I'm not, but if I was, I would definitely be putting my money on Steven Gerrard ending up over at Liverpool and not at MK Dons. But that is the exciting world, of course, that we live in, never knowing who's going to end up where and what rumors start where. And, well, we shall see. Either way, as that music says, it is time for another break. So just a very small kick around today. Time to get off the practice field. You are listening to Two Up Front, presented by Three Lions Pub, hanging out here by myself in the Attention Era Media studio. Either way, having a great show. When we come back, excited about this, we're going to have Lynn Williams on the phone. So make sure you stay tuned. See you on the other side. Welcome back to Two Up Front here at the Attention Era Media Studios in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We are presented by Three Lions Pub. What a great interview with Lynn Williams that I just had. What a very humble lady, and just really a pleasure to have her on. Like I've said before, it's just an honor to have players of her caliber coming on this show. So great couple of interviews. Johnathan Campbell earlier from the Chicago Fire, Lynn Williams now of the U.S. Women's National Team, and of course the Western New York Flash. After this segment, we're actually going to welcome Dan Lauletta as well. He is the managing editor of Equalizing Soccer and also the Sky Blue FC analyst. So that'll be another great conversation we have. Folks, don't forget to check us out on our website, 2upfrontsoccer.com. We've got some gear that you can check out. You can see all the amazing guests that we've had on the show. If you want to get in touch with us, do feel free to send us an email at 2upfrontsoccer@gmail.com. All right, the next thing I want to talk about, want to spend just a few minutes here. Some good news from U.S. Soccer. U.S. Women's U20 World Cup. Started out what many people thought was going to be an ugly, what seemed to be a bit of an ugly game. U.S. taking on France. U.S. does end up drawing with France 0-0, which worried a few people, but from what I've been reading, what I've been seeing, the French U20 women's national team is quite a decent team. However, it was a little bit worrying after this match to go back and look at it again. Possession was 60-40 in favor of France, and the U.S. was outshot 17-3. Again, that was in favor of France. The U.S. only had one shot on goal, but France as well really didn't do that much. When you went back and watched this game, was the U.S. a bit overrun by France? Yes, but there really weren't many threats from France. The U.S. defense played really, really well, and I think overall this was a decent result for the USA. By the way, this was back on November 14th that this game took place. So as well as the defense, the midfield was pretty smooth, and it's not like the U.S. never got into the box, the final third of France. They just couldn't finish their chances. And what was interesting about this is when you went back and looked then at the Mexico-Korea game, it was surprising to see, well, maybe not surprising, but how many Mexican-American players are playing for Mexico. Look, it's not a mystery. Mexico is sifting through Southern California, looking at Texas, Arizona, New Mexico. They're trying to find players in the U.S., not just on their men's side, but also on their women's side. You know, the Mexican women's program for a while was not very good, but we're starting to see them get better. They ended up beating Korea in their first game, South Korea, that is 2-0. So you might look at that game and think, wow, with all those Mexican-American players on that team, maybe U.S. Soccer is missing something. But again, to be fair, when you really watch that game, Korea couldn't connect really a single pass. There were no shots on goal for Korea. They look incredibly disconnected. I think any team that would go up against Korea is pretty much going to beat Korea. So I don't think, for all the fans that were pointing towards Mexico as, yep, here we go, even on the women's side, we're seeing U.S. Soccer fall apart. I think what Jill Ellis is doing right now with the senior women's national team is excellent. Look, she put out there a new philosophy that is not new to the rest of the world, but basically saying, with how healthy the NWSL is getting to be, I'm going to start looking at different players. I'm going to start looking at younger players. I don't want players on my team to get to 200 caps anymore because they're getting pushed out by younger and better players. And she's already put that philosophy into practice. You look at these last 4 games, this last camp that she had, many players that had not played before, I think it was 11 or 12, got suited up with the U.S. team. Now, you look at that and say, well, I thought she was looking at younger players. You're seeing players that are 23 years old. Yes, but part of that now is, and it's what Lynn Williams and I talked about, that the NWSL gives these women a chance to say, hey, you missed me. Bring me on. You know, Jessica McDonald's a great example of that. I won't go too far into that because Baxter and I spent a lot of time talking about that. But you look at the U20 national team. They're led by Mallory Pugh. And speaking of Mallory Pugh and this U.S. team, look, they responded from their 0-0 game against France and ended up beating New Zealand very early this morning, 3-1. And reading the reports, I'll be honest with you, I didn't stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning to watch this game. But it sounds like that they had beat New Zealand pretty easily. What I do know is that Mallory Pugh is taking this team on her back and saying, let's go, let's do this. Mexico, meanwhile, lost to a very strong Germany team 3-0. So once again, you go back to that, well, maybe the players on Mexico should actually be on the U.S. team. I think right now you got to give it more time and really, really in order to judge that. Conveniently enough, or ironically is the word I'm looking for, who do you think the U.S. plays next in their final group game? Of course, none other than Ghana. It is amazing how, since Bob Bradley's team lost to Ghana, Ghana just keeps popping up in these U.S. World Cups, U.S. tournaments, whatever it may be. This is going to be an interesting game. Ghana, in their last game, drew with France 2-2, so France, the queens of the draw right now. But yet they lost to New Zealand 1-0, so it's a matter of which Ghana team is going to show up. I think the U.S. is in pretty good shape here. If we look at the group, obviously I talked about France having 2 points with their 2 draws, the U.S. on 4 points with their draw and a win. New Zealand second in the group, though, with their win and, of course, their loss that they had to Ghana. So New Zealand had that win against Ghana, the loss against U.S. New Zealand in second at 3 points. France at 2 points. Ghana in 1 point. So what's interesting, what's very tantalizing about this U20 World Cup, at least in Group C, all of these teams can still qualify. So it all comes down to the schedule that they play. Again, U.S. loses to Ghana. They could be sitting on the outside in. Now, they've got, obviously, they're top of the group with 4 points, plus 2 goal differential. But they lose 3-0 to Ghana. Suddenly, Ghana's got 4 points, and they're above the U.S. And then if New Zealand were to beat France, New Zealand and Ghana go through. I don't think that's going to happen. I do think France is going to beat New Zealand, which puts them at 5 points. I think the U.S. is at least going to draw with Ghana, though the last time I predicted a U.S.-Ghana game was back in the 2006 World Cup. That's actually where it started. I misspoke with Bob Bradley. It started with the 2006 World Cup, in which the U.S. lost to Ghana, led by Bruce Arena. But I think the U.S. at least draws this game and wins this group and goes on through. But we will have to see how this plays out. But very exciting stuff going on in the FIFA U20 Women's World Cup. By the way, that is in Papua New Guinea, so I'm sure the women are loving being down there. All right, my friends, once again, I do want to remind you to check out 2 Upfront on our website, but also make sure you find us on iTunes, iHeartRadio, of course, here on Spreaker.com. Would love to have done the show live today. Unfortunately, just had some malfunctioning equipment here. Wouldn't let me do it. Couldn't get on the internet, and therefore I couldn't record this live. However, I'm still very excited to have the show put together, and that you can still sit here on Spreaker.com and listen to it. So you are listening to 2 Upfront, presented by Three Lions Pub. I'm going to get to the end of this segment just yet. Just trying to find my way there. See, Baxter, see what happens. See what happens when you're not here. I'm just kidding, my friend. I love the fact that you're spending time with your newborn son, and I'm excited to have you come back on the show and announce all the details. Okay, you are listening to 2 Upfront, presented by Three Lions Pub. Coming up next, Equalizer Soccer, Managing Editor Dan Lauletta. Welcome back to 2 Upfront in the Attention Era Media Studios, brought to you by Three Lions Pub. This is Simon Provance sitting alone in the booth today as Baxter celebrates the birth of his son. I'll let him give you all the details on that. Listen, we've had a lot of great guests on today's show, and the next one that we welcome into, well, not into the studio, but on the phone line, he is the managing editor of Equalizer Soccer. He's also an analyst for Sky Blue FC of the NWSL. Thrilled to have him with us. Dan Lauletta, welcome to 2 Upfront.
Hey, Simon, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Great to have you on the phone, Dan. As we were off air, though, you had told me that there was some big news that came out, asked if I had heard about it. I said no, but you know what? Let's save it for the air. So Dan, go ahead and Share that big news with us.
Well, another NWSL trade came out early afternoon on Thursday, and the Washington Spirit, not surprisingly, are involved in it again. Megan Oyster this time on her way to Boston, along with the number 3 and 9 picks in the 2017 draft. Returning to Washington, Christy Mullis, Cassie Kalman, and the right to hold the number 1 pick in the distribution ranking order, which I can explain if necessary. But another piece, Krieger and Nairn went already for Washington,
right,
and now Megan Oyster, so they're really tearing things up from the team that made the final just a few weeks ago.
It certainly makes you wonder what's going on in Washington. I know Jim Gabarra had come out and said, it's not what it looks like, but, saying that he has a major plan in place. But it certainly seems odd when you're getting rid of all your big stars, your important players, and that the trades seem to be working out in favor of the other teams.
Well, don't doubt that Jim Gabarra has a plan. The question really is, why does Jim Gabarra have a plan? Because if you go back to October 9th, heartbreak and all from losing the championship the way they did, I don't think that you could logically walk off the field that day and have trading Allie Krieger, Christine Nairn, and Megan Oyster as part of your plan. Now, Oyster makes a little bit of sense because she had lost her spot in central defense. She did play in the final and was excellent in the kind of a bridge formation that Gabarra plays. But I don't really believe that this could be a logical plan unless there are some outside external factors at play, which it very much seems like there are. I just don't know that we've figured out exactly what they are yet.
Well, on the opposite side, you've got the Boston Breakers who are making a lot of moves that seem to be in their favor. Would you agree with that?
Well, they have to make good on the draft picks. But otherwise, yes, I think the Breakers are having themselves a pretty solid offseason. They're not a club that has really made good on a lot of trades over the years, but it seems like maybe the McCaffrey trade could work out in their favor. And it seems like maybe this trade could work out in their favor, and some of their international acquisitions have been good. And I'm just looking right now at a tweet from their GM, Lee Billiard, that says, and this is an exact quote, "This trade allows us to free up some cap space and the ability to change some picks into more quality, experienced players we can bring in." So the Breakers now hold the first, third, and ninth picks in the first round, and also 7 of the top 16 picks. So based on that tweet from Billiard, I wouldn't expect them to hold all those picks, as good as the draft is supposed to be this year.
Gotcha. Another thing I'm wondering if you could update us on, have you heard any more about the Crystal Dunn rumors heading over to Lyon in France?
I haven't really. I do know that there is a possibility that Crystal Dunn won't be back in Washington, whether that's to Europe or whether that's elsewhere in NWSL. I'm not really sure. But, if you look in the right spots, you can pretty much find some sort of a discussion about almost every prominent player in this league.
That's true.
Either not being happy in their situation or wanting to play in the Champions League or wanting to do this, wanting to do that. So nothing has come my way that is a strong enough indicator that anything is imminent. Doesn't mean it isn't, but nothing has come my way that would suggest that.
On the same subject, still talking about Lyon, obviously they've come outright and say they want Alex Morgan. They've been pursuing her. There's a nice article on Equalizer Soccer about that pursuit, but that as well. Any updates there? Has she hinted about wanting to go over to France at all?
Everything I've heard from Alex Morgan is that she's very pleased being in Orlando, living with her husband who plays for Orlando City. At one point, Lyon had said that part of the package could be getting a contract for Alex's husband, Servando Carrasco, to play, maybe not on the first team, but on the reserve team over there. But all indications to me seem like Alex Morgan is happy in Orlando, but it's hard to say what motivates each particular player. Do you want to play in the Champions League where Lyon just won 17-0 on aggregate in the round of 16? I don't know if that is too enticing for me. Do you want to make the most money? Do you want to live by family? Do you want to help grow the league in the United States? And we also don't know how the collective bargaining agreement will work itself out. So it's hard to put yourself in players' minds because everybody's motivated differently.
Absolutely. Well, we did have a surprise retirement that you had retweeted about as well from FC Kansas City, Francis Silva. You had mentioned that you thought that she was on the up and up. Any idea why the retirement, or any inside news on that one, Dan?
I didn't really see anything specific, but at the end of the day, most of these players are in the same boat. They are living the dream in terms of being professional athletes, training every day, playing in games, and being able to call themselves pro athletes. But there's a lot about that dream that is not quite as exciting as it seems like from the outside. They don't make a whole lot of money. They don't have, if you want to play between September, October, and the preseason, you have to go to the other side of the world.
Right.
A lot of players enjoy doing it. Again, every player's motivation is different, so a lot of players don't. So I'm sure it's no different than any other player moving along. And not only, Simon, do you not make money in the present, but as if you're 24, 25, 26, you're starting to lose ground in the field that you want to be in when you're done playing soccer. So that's another factor, because, you could maybe make it work on the money until you're 34, 35, but then you want to go into whatever field that you're going to do for the rest of your life at that age, starting from the ground floor. It's not easy.
Yeah, no, it's tough. I think I read that the top salary outside of the national team players is about $34,000.
These are not players that are making a lot of money. There's not a lot of they're not exactly starting their nest egg. Let's put it that way.
Right.
But it's a passion, and the players who are still sticking it out, credit to them, and we're all pleased that they're willing and able to do that. And one day this will change, but that day's not here yet.
Correct, right. Well, you had teased about explaining the allocation order, or how the process works in NWSL. I've got an idea of how it works in MLS, but I would love for you to fill in our listeners on how it works in the NWSL.
Well, the best I can do, and you never know, because these things tend to change at a moment's notice. But
right.
This was a rule that was put in place about a minute before the draft began earlier this year in January. And essentially what it is that if new players come into the league, and I'll use Mallory Pugh as an example, because the Thorns, when they made that announcement, made a trade with the Breakers, got the number one priority, and at that moment they thought they were getting Mallory Pugh. So Pugh was not draft eligible because she hadn't completed her college eligibility. She would have been subsidized by U.S. Soccer. So instead of having the new allocations just assigned what seems like randomly, I'm sure there's some factors that go into play behind the scenes, rather than just say, hey, Kristen Press is allocated now, she's going to Chicago. They have a priority order now, which is the reverse order of the standings from the previous season. And it's not only U.S. players. Let's say Australia wants to jump in, or let's say France or Spain or whoever wants to come in and say, hey, we want to pay so-and-so and they'll play in your league, then that player will be part of the distribution ranking order. Also, if you remember, Seattle got the rights to a couple of players, and I don't remember the names of them offhand, but that was back in March. Those were players who were no longer affiliated with their clubs, who had been previously subsidized. So Whitney Ingen, if Boston decided they didn't want her anymore, would be part of that list, I believe.
Okay.
Now, that part of it is certainly not worth trading up. The Spirit were, I guess, number 9. The Krieger trade got them to number 2. This trade gets them to number 1. Is that just for show to make the trade look better, or do they know something that we don't know? It's really hard to say, especially because in this case, and you have to flip-flop. It's not like the draft where you can have like the first, fourth, and eighth priority. You switch with the other team. So Orlando drops down to number 9. Now Boston drops down to number 2. But that's interesting because they could have just as easily said, hey, we've got the number 1 priority, but we just won't take player X. If they come in, we'll let you have them at number 2. So, that's the big wild card here. If a great player comes in, then all of a sudden these trades that people are lambasting the Spirit for look a lot better. But at the same time, Pew never panned out and nothing ever happened, and the mechanism was barely mentioned again after it was put in place. So that's one of the many million-dollar questions around NWSL.
Well, we know that the same questions happen with MLS, but Dan, love talking to you. Why don't you let people know where they can find you?
Well, it's EqualizerSoccer.com is our site, and we're fully devoted to covering women's soccer, and I'm on Twitter at the Dan Lauletta, and the last name is Lauletta, the Dan Lauletta, and give me a follow or check out the site EqualizerSoccer.com.
Well, Dan, you were talking about how teams can better themselves with trades. Our show is definitely better for having you on the last 11 minutes, so thanks for joining us here on Two Up Front.
Thanks, Sam. I'm glad to do it.
All right. You have yourself a great day, Dan. There he goes, Dan Lauletta on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. We're going to take a break. When I come back, we'll do a little closing statements here. A little bit of I Believe. You are listening to Two Up Front from the Attention Era Media Studios, presented by Three Lions Pub. Welcome back to Two Up Front at the Attention Era Media Studios in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We are brought to you by Three Lions Pub. This is Simon Provan sitting in the booth alone today. I'm enjoying it, but it's always great to have somebody else to knock some ideas off of. Either way, thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you check us out on Facebook. Just type in Two Up Front Soccer or Two Up Front in that search bar. You'll find us there. And, of course, you can find us on Twitter as well, at Two Up Front Soccer. He is at Baxter Colburn, whether he's here or not, and I am at Simon Provan. So feel free to send us your thoughts that way. Usually you can hear us live Tuesdays and Thursdays, 12 to 1 p.m. Central on Spreaker.com. Of course, today couldn't be live, but nevertheless, hopefully you're tuning into the show and listening to the great interviews we've had, like that last one with Dan Lauletta. Just got a couple of minutes here in this last segment. Usually this is where Baxter plays the I Believe song. I would sing it for you, but I don't want to hurt your ears, so I'm going to start here with I Believe and then some closing thoughts. I think if you're out there, you'll know what my I Believe is. It's something that I really want to believe. I believe that Jurgen Klinsmann will be gone. I would love to spend time talking about the different coaches that U.S. Soccer could bring into it, but I think it's very simple. Maybe this is a double I Believe. I think we're going to see Bruce Arena take over for Jurgen Klinsmann, at least through the qualifying process. I don't know, maybe through the World Cup. Dave Saccharin just announced that he was stepping down as assistant coach of the LA Galaxy, saying that he had aspirations to coach a club of his own, and it sounds like actually he's gunning for that LAFC job. I don't know if LAFC would hire somebody like Dave. I think they may want to bring in a bigger name, but we wish him the best of luck. But I also think that may send a signal that Bruce Arena may be the man in charge. Other people have talked about Ziggy Schmid. I don't know at the national team level if he would be cut out for it. I don't know if the game has passed him by a little bit, perhaps. You could make the same argument against Bruce Arena, but Bruce really is a tactician, and he knows how to buckle down. And again, maybe U.S. Soccer just uses him to get through qualifying. I've seen some people mention bring in Miguel Herrera out of Mexico, who obviously got fired from the fight that he had with either a photographer or a columnist, something like that, down in Mexico. And people have said it'd be really cool to have him coach, and just to maybe scare Mexico when they head down to Mexico City at Azteca. Either way, it would be interesting to see if Klinsmann does get let go, who would take over for him. My friends, it's been a pleasure talking to you, talking with our guest. I want to thank Johnathan Campbell of the Chicago Fire, Lynn Williams of the Western New York Flash and U.S. Women's National Team, and Dan Lauletta of Equalizer Soccer and Sky Blue FC. It's been a joy. It's been fun. Thanks for staying with me. I'm getting a little better at this production thing. Not always the best at it yet, but I'm getting better at it, and I appreciate you sticking through some of the glibs that I may have had. But it's always a joy to be in the studio talking soccer with you. Baxter, of course, I'm wishing you the very best, my friend. Congratulations on the birth of your new son. Like I said, I'd love to say his name on air. I know a lot of people do know already, but I'm going to save that for you, big guy. Again, check us out Tuesdays and Thursdays, 12 to 1 p.m. Central. We will be in next Tuesday with an exciting announcement there about another sponsor. We won't be here Thursday because it is Thanksgiving that day, but do check us out usually Tuesdays and Thursdays, 12 to 1 p.m. Central, live here on Spreaker. I'm Simon Provan, and on behalf of Baxter Colburn, with our manager being the one above, we are two up front.